And welcome back to another All Out and Wobble and Jaw Sports collab. We are up to episode 8 of our 2026 club previews, and I am joined by the man himself. Sam, how are we?
I'm doing really well, mate. How are you doing?
Mate, I am doing absolutely fabulous. And as you can see on our right-hand side, we are covering the West Tigers this evening or in this podcast. So, look, as we have started off all these podcasts, Sam, let's go straight in to the West Tigers 2025 review. So, look, in round one, they had a really high-scoring affair against the Newcastle Knights. No, it was the complete opposite of high scoring. It was very low scoring. 10 points to 8, they went down at Campbelltown, Sam. And then they bounced back in round 2 against the Parramatta Eels with a 32 points to 6 victory there at Combank. They then went on and beat the Dolphins in round 3, 30 points to 18. So pretty good start thus far. And if you think about it, well, round 4, they've lost a close one. So round 1 and round 4, they went down to the Wars at Campbelltown 26 to 24. So 2 from 2 to start the 2025 season for the West Tigers, and Jerome Luai's first season at the Tigers. And look, you'd probably take a 50% strike record considering their recent form heading into the 2025 season, the West Tigers. So 2 from 2 there to start the first 4 rounds, and 2 of those 2 losses were very close there. But unfortunately, they went to the Cauldron Suncorp in round 5 and got beaten well. 46 points to 24 by the Broncos in round 5. They responded, though, in round 6 against Newcastle. They took that 10 points to 8 loss in round 1 really personally, Sam, and they came back. And unfortunately for the people of the Hunter, the Tigers were prowling in Newcastle, and 20 points to 4. They were too good there for the Newcastle Knights. So a good response there from the Tigers. Unfortunately, though, they were able to get the wood over the Tigers in round 2, but unfortunately, unlike the Knights in getting revenge, it went the other way, and Parramatta were too good there for the West Tigers, 38 points to 22. I believe that might have been Mitch Moses' first game back. I could be wrong, but I think it was Mitchell Moses'. I'm going to actually check that to make sure I'm correct. I could be wrong. It might have been the week after. No, I was right. Geez, I'm a genius. That was very special there. No, that was completely luck, ladies and gentlemen. We move on to round 8, and they got the victory over the Cronulla Sharks, 20 points to 18. Look, just, Sam, if I can get your thoughts here, just in the first 8 rounds of the season, the Tigers are really a different team heading through, this first couple of months of the season. They're either winning or they're not losing by very much at all. A complete difference to Tigers of old, of maybe the last, maybe 3-4 seasons before last year.
It was a strong start for the Tigers, even in that game against the Brizzy Broncos. They made things a little bit hairy at halftime, thereabouts, man. So, no, this was definitely a very exciting start, and their best start to a campaign in at least 4 years.
Yeah, no, it's going really well, but unfortunately it decides to go a bit south, as you can probably see in a couple of rounds' time. So, look, round 8, like I said, 20 points to 18 over the Sharks. And look, that's a pretty good win. You think about it, the Sharks, they were, top 8 side there. So to be able to get the win over them was crucial. Round 9 came around, and they were able to get the chocolates in Magic Round over the Dragons, 34 points to 28. And look, the West Tigers, they just love Magic Round. They love playing up at Suncorp most of the time, like Sam alluded to before. Yes, they went down the Broncos, but they went down swinging. They were able to score some points and make it entertaining for their fans. And I know they've beaten us a couple of times up at Suncorp, us being the Broncos. But unfortunately, their season ended in round 10. That is a disgusting, horrific loss. And considering with what Sam and I were just alluding to in the first 9 rounds, we're seeing a very different West Tigers team. And come round 10, a trip down to Melbourne, and they have gone down 64 points to nil in easily the biggest, or the key point of the season was that loss, that heavy loss there, considering how they started the season. They were in games really well. They weren't losing by big margins. If they were losing, they were able to get some good wins over some quality opposition. But then round 10 came along and they got their ass handed to them respectfully. And they unfortunately then went down again the following week to the Rabbitohs, who, as we touched on in our second last podcast that we 2 episodes ago in our Rabbitohs, or actually three podcasts ago on our Rabbitohs podcast there, they were riddled with injuries and didn't have a very good season at all. As you can see, if we look at the ladder here, Tigers finished in 13th, the Rabbitohs in 14th. So they were both, very close to each other. And yeah, they fortunately, should I say, in round 12 had a bye, Sam. So they were able to get 2 points there after a couple of losses in a row. And then against their good old, look, it's a bit of a rivalry game against the Cowboys, considering with how history has panned out. And the Cowboys were able to go down there and get the win. So not a good response. That's 3 losses in a row. Obviously, the bye came in there to get them 2 points, and they made it, unfortunately, 4 losses in a row with going down to Penrith. But again, those 2 losses to those 2 teams, and even the Rabbitohs one, was only, less than 12 points, 4 to the Panthers, who, again, were a top 8 side, and the Cowboys, they're only losing by 4. So really good effort thus far. Round 15, a bye, so they got another 2 points there. So that's pretty handy, considering they've had 4 losses in 6 weeks, but luckily they've had 2 byes to be able to get them 4 points on the board. Unfortunately, though, we have touched on a couple of teams that played really well after the bye round. The Tigers were not one of these teams. They have lost again in round 16. They lost to the Raiders, 16 points to 12 again. Pretty good showing, Sam. They only gone down by 4 points against the minor premiers, so a very good result there. They then went to 4 Pines, unfortunately lost by 18 points there to Manly, 28 points to 10. They then were able to beat the Roosters, and another top 8 side, 30 points to 28. So really strong there from the Tigers. They then went over the ditch to New Zealand in round 19, went down to the Warriors, 34 points to 14. They then went to Leichhardt back home and were able to nab a 21 points to 20 victory over the Titans. If I'm wrong, I think Adam Dewey was the man who kicked the field goal for that one. Am I right? Yep, Sam's nodding his head, so I've nailed that one. Then round 21, and this is probably the 64-0 was easily their worst. This was probably their second worst performance, 36 points to 2 against the Panthers at CommBank. Not a good day there at all. But fortunately, should I say, for the Tigers, they again beat a top side, a top 8 side. They took down the Bulldogs, 28 points to 14. Unbelievable performance there from the Tigers, and just shows the development that Benji Marshall and the group, as well as the coaching staff, are instilling in the Tigers players there. Look, I'm seeing 2 bad performances thus far throughout this 2025 campaign, and a lot of close losses, or a way different Tigers team to previous seasons. So round 23 came around. They had a bye after that good win against the Bulldogs, and they changed it, Sam. 3rd time's a charm. 26 points to 12. They were able to win after their bye, in their 3rd and final bye in round 23 over the Manly Seagulls, and extract some revenge from that loss that they suffered here in round 17. They then moved to round 25, and speaking of revenge, they were not able to get a victory against the Cowboys in 2025, thankfully for Sam. Cowboys won that one in a close one, 34 points to 28. Round 26 came along. They came up against the minor premiers and went down 24 points to 10. This was the game that sealed the minor premiership for the Canberra Raiders. And then it went to round 27. And in Kieran Foran's final game on the coast and in his NRL career, the Titans were able to beat the Tigers 36 points to 28. And that rounds out the 2025 season for the West Tigers. And as you can see there on the graphic, they finished in 13th place, Sam. What are your thoughts as a whole on the West Tigers' performance in season 2025, mate?
Easily their best efforts as a franchise for at least 3, maybe 4 years. The key game, as you said, that Melbourne Storm loss sparked a 6-game losing streak. I think their best win of the season was that game against the Bulldogs. It was the revenge game against Lachie Galvin. They absolutely terrorized the Bulldogs. They weren't anticipating the ambush that was awaiting them. I thought their comeback win against the Dolphins in round 3 was pretty impressive. That showed a lot of spirit and character from the boys there, because I think they were down about 18 points to 6 in the second half or thereabouts. You can correct me what that halftime score might be, but they had to come back, from a deficit, did the West Tigers.
It's there to see, Sam. You nailed it. It was 18 points, 18 points to 6 there after 22 minutes or 30 minutes, should I say. And then it was all the Tigers straight after that. So continue, mate. I just wanted to say you were 110% correct.
No, thank you, man. It was their best season in at least 4 years. And I think their best victory of the year was against the Bulldogs. But unfortunately, what everybody might remember for the West Tigers of 2025, unfortunately, despite the massive improvement, what made them miss the top 8 was that loss to the Melbourne Storm, which sparked a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah, it was just that middle part of the season, wasn't it, Sam? I did allude to it when I went through it there, and you've just hit the nail on the head right there as well. It was just that middle part of the season. They had the 2 buys. Thank God for those 2 buys, because, they wouldn't have got any points in that period without them. So, look, if they can just fix up that middle part of the year, Sam, that they're pushing close. Like, 24 points. They, only missed it by a couple of wins. And you think about it as well, they lost a couple of, a fair few close games in season 2025. So they've instilled they've instilled faith in their coach, the West Tigers, by extending Benji Marshall. And, to be honest, I don't know about the length of the extension, but I think Benji Marshall definitely deserved that extension. We definitely saw an improvement for the Tigers in season 2025. And I think this is a really big year for the West Tigers this season, in season 2026, considering, Marshall's extension, as well as, picking up a few quality players that we'll go into in a second. I think this is a year that they need to start to definitely get a bit higher than 13th place. Whether Sam and I believe that will happen in season 2026, you'll see that a bit later. But let's touch on those gains and losses, Sam, that I was just alluding to before for the West Tigers for season 2026. And look, makes my life nice and easy. Not much movement at the West Tigers in the off-season, Sam. So let's touch on the losses. So there was 2 losses that the West Tigers, who left the West Tigers, should I say, throughout the 2025 campaign. And like you alluded to, Sam, when you were touching on that revenge game against the Bulldogs, left of centre is Mr. Lachlan Galvin, left the West Tigers to go to the Bulldogs. And look, Galvin didn't win a premiership. And look, you'd have to say the West Tigers maybe got the last laugh. Galvin didn't really go on to do anything at the Bulldogs. And the Tigers got the last say with that revenge victory against Lachlan Galvin there that you alluded to before, Sam. But look, if we're looking at it from a whole and looking in the future, I think, yes, they've got some talented players. The West Tigers, coming through their ranks, especially, in the halves position, Sam. But they've got the likes of Alatu Finu, who was the man that went in there uh, and, sort of took Galvin's role. Look, when I say took Galvin's role, it was obviously shared a bit there with Luai and Adam Dewey as well, and that probably was the combination that sort of really flourished at the back end for the West Tigers. But they've also got some really good, youngsters. Pardon me, sorry, coming through as well. The West Tigers, so it's it's a big loss, Sam, but what are your thoughts on the Galvin situation? Because obviously it was a whole I know. Look, let's be honest and let's be real. I know very close, obviously, with you, Sam, and we speak to you a lot about rugby league, and I know you especially were a bit annoyed and a bit over the amount of press that Lachlan Galvin was getting throughout that whole period, and taking a bit of spotlight over the Tigers, or keeping the Tigers in the media when they didn't really deserve to be. Look, now it's all moved on and everything. It's good, but I think down the track for the future of the West Tigers, it's a big loss considering the age of Lachlan Galvin. But what are your thoughts?
Well, we spoke about Melbourne Storm, the Melbourne Storm loss being a huge turning point, but Lachlan Galvin uh, put a Fukushima bomb underneath the joint and said, "I'm leaving," halfway through the month of April. And it was an enormous distraction. And there was some other distractions that happened off the paddock as well, but this was the one that really tested everybody's mettle. Luai and Marshall having some really fascinating press conferences throughout the weeks that followed this announcement. The press was insane. I remember Joseph Suaalii a few years back. He hadn't even debuted yet, and there was already plenty of TV airtime for the young bloke. But this instance, I don't think I can recall such a heavily spotlighted story in rugby league over the past few years. This is one of the longest and biggest freaking stories I can recall. For a bloke that, yes, I can see he is talented, but he hasn't proven anything yet. He's not done anything in the game. So you say that this is a big loss for the West Tigers, but then again, you've got Latu Finu waiting in the wings. We're going to get to the train and trial list shortly because there's a couple of players there that will be appearing in West Tigers colours, I'm sure, over the next few years. But you say it's a big loss. Yes, he's a talented fella, and yes, he did play some really good footy for the West Tigers, but he hasn't proven anything yet. So that's what was most grinding about this whole Lachlan Galvin story. It was for a teenager, for a very young man that had done nothing in the game, and he's been spoken about in like Joey Johns terms and stuff. Like, let's just pump the brakes on that, for goodness sake. But yeah, we talk about 2025 review. You couldn't talk about the review without mentioning this Lachlan Galvin story, because I don't think it derailed them. It just distracted them really, really badly. And
we talked about
I don't
that
think
lost period as well, Sam. Do you think
yes.
do you think like this whole Galvin situation, like you said, those Luai and Marshall press conferences, that sort of that 6-game losing streak that you were referring to before, is that come from the Galvin situation, do you think? And obviously all that, media circle around the West Tigers?
Yeah, I think so, man. So I'm just looking at a certain particular game here. So he didn't play in that game against the Parramatta Eels, where the Eels won 38-22. I think that might have been the week where he was, where he did exit. And then the Tigers had about 2 or 3 games where they did win. Sorry, it was a close victory against the Sharks. That was good. And then they just snuck home against the Dragons. And I think that just that 3-week period there just sort of caught up to them.
Yep.
And strained on them. And yeah, that led to the it led to the 6-game losing streak. So I don't think it's as big of a loss as you. I can see that he is talented, but you've got the likes of young Latu Fainu and you've got Luai and Dewey. He's still there. So I don't think it's as big of a loss as you, but it was certainly the biggest talking point at the Tigers last year.
Probably not just the biggest. It was probably the biggest talking point of the NRL in season 2025. To be honest, as a whole, it was basically drowning the media. It was everywhere on social media with the Galvin situation. But they lost another young player, Sam, as well, with Talon De Silva moving to the Parramatta Eels. Look, he came off the bench there, and look, to be honest, the Eels have done quite well considering that, they had the likes of Hands, Lussick, and whatnot. And Riley Smith was obviously had come down from Queensland and, was highly touted, but hadn't really had much first grade at all. But then he sort of took over. Hands and Lussick, we spoke about that on the Parramatta Eels. Lussick's hung up the boots. Hands has gone over the Super League. And now it's Smith and De Silva that are the hookers. And I was just, the reason why he left the West Tigers is he didn't want to wait around and be stuck behind Appy Coruscant playing big minutes. My question is, look, this is probably my thing is like, why did he go to Parramatta when Riley Smith's there? And like, they're probably going to share the minutes, and that they sort of did. Riley Smith maybe playing it slightly a bit more because he's been there for a bit. It'll be interesting to see the minute, split this season. Now that they've had a full off season, De Silva and the Eels. But for me, it's a bit of a loss because I can understand why he's done it. It's a bit of like a Peasant situation we discussed in the Storm podcast where a player just sort of gets fed up or, knows he's good enough to be playing week to week first grade and he's just not getting that opportunity. And look, the Coruscant and the Tigers, with the extension talks and everything like that, it didn't look like De Silva was going to be getting a crack unless through injury for probably at least a couple of years. So, he had enough and he said, I want out. And Richo said, yep, okay, well, we can organize that. And then, he went off to Parramatta again. It's a bit of a loss. But like you said, Sam, there's some good youngsters coming through and I like what Benji Marshall's doing. But at the end of the day, he was very quality, a quality player, should I say, every time he put on the West Tigers jersey. And I think, in years to come, he can be a very handy player for the Parramatta Eels. Your thoughts on De Silva, my friend?
100%. I think the other, this is a tinfoil hat theory as well, but he was great mates with Lachlan Galvin, and maybe Talon De Silva just wanted out when Lockie Galvin did go out. Talon De Silva, I really like. A lot of Tigers fans do as well. Had big raps on him, so that one. Yeah, this one could be a bit of a loss, but considering how our team list goes, we'll get into that shortly. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how the utility is going to be used for the West Tigers in 2026. But yeah, no, it's a fraction of a loss. Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Charlie Staines, Solomona Fatape, and Josh Felaty. So Josh Felaty's gone to the Manly Seagulls. Fatape, who sort of filled in, I wouldn't say like outstandingly, but he was pretty good, solid, I'd say, in his performances when he played for the West Tigers. And Charlie Staines, look, he's definitely slowly. I thought he was a lot better in season 2025, but obviously not better enough to keep him around with him going over the Super League with Catalan. I think the big two losses were the two that they lost throughout the season with Galvin and De Silva. But like you said, Sam, and we touched on at the back end of that 2025 campaign, it didn't really affect the Tigers too much. Outside the whole media circus there in that middle part of the season. Outside of that, the Tigers, handled it quite well. I don't know Josh Felaty too well, but I think that a few players that we'll touch on, I think will be able to to sort of fill in the gaps with the losses of the outside backs there with Staines and Fatape. So that is the 2026 losses for the West Tigers. The gains, Sam, the gains for the West Tigers, and none other. The biggest gain for the West Tigers this offseason was none other than England international Kai Pearce-Paul coming from the Newcastle Knights to the West Tigers. And we'll just quickly touch on KPP, Sam, because I think he's the biggest one of this on this list. I think Madden and Maverick Geyer, who's come down from the Broncos and across from the Panthers. I think they can be handy players that might Madden will feature if there's a couple of injuries in the spine, in the halves there. And I think Guy could feature at some point if there's some injuries in the row. But I think the player that's in the 113, he's starting every week, is Kai Pearce-Paul. Look, in my opinion, Kai Pearce-Paul has been really, really solid and, a good player in NRL level throughout his NRL campaign since coming over from English shores, Sam. But I think this is a signing that the Tigers desperately needed, because they kept on playing players in the second row who weren't second rowers. And like I give the utmost respect to Alex Seyfarth, but he's just got no movement. Like, he's just not quick. He's he just works his ass off. And to me, I'd rather Alex Seyfarth playing in the middle of the field, because he just works his backside off. He was great. I'm not taking anything away from Alex Seyfarth. He did a job for the West Tigers on the edge, but he's just, in this modern day and age, he's just not a modern second rower. They need to be able to have really good ball skills, light on their feet, quick, etc. You look like your Angus Crichtons, some of the prime second rowers in the competition. They've got really good ball skills. They've got some toe about them, good footwork, etc. So yeah, Seyfarth's in my 1 to 17. He's a workhorse, but it's just, I don't think he's a second rower. And to have someone like a Kai Pearce-Paul come in, and now they've got Samuel Alafinu and Kai Pearce-Paul in the second row, that is a mean 1-2 punch for the West Tigers on each edge, Sam. What are your thoughts on KPP and the acquisition of him from the Tigers?
For sure. He, to me, I don't think has broken out on an NRL level yet. Obviously, he has overall because he's an English international, but I'm still waiting for him to truly explode in the NRL. And it's an advantage to the West Tigers to have Kai Pearce-Paul and Samuel Alafinu in the second row, because unless if I'm forgetting, they're both going to be 80-minute performers. I think Samuel Alafinu might have a 10-minute spell here and there every now and then, but it's going to help their interchange, and that might make their forward pack off the interchange bench a lot more bulkier, considering that these two gentlemen in the second row will be 80-minute performers. So I think this is good. I think it is a very good acquisition for the West Tigers, and wish Kai Pearce-Paul the best.
Yeah, so that is the gains and losses for the West Tigers. So a pretty small list compared to some of the other clubs. But, some solid acquisitions there, a bit of depth signings with Maverick Geyer and Jock Madden. I think Maverick Geyer's done the right thing, respectfully to Penrith and whatnot. Obviously, his dad was a Penrith legend. But I think that you've got to, do the right thing for your career. And he's stuck behind way too many players at Penrith, especially on the edge. I think, if there's probably an injury to Fainu or to Kai Pearce-Paul, he's probably, maybe second cab off the rank in regards to coming in on the edge there behind maybe Tony Suka. So, I think that he's done the right thing. And look, Jock Madden, he's probably closer to playing for the Tigers than he is for the Broncos through injury. So I think that's the right decision for him as well. All right, let's move on to your neck in the woods, Sam, and let's move on to the West Tigers train and trial / development list for season 2026. And what a name. What a great name to start us off, Sam. An absolute cult hero in Big Bunty, mate. So take it away.
Yes, sir. All right. So the first six names off of this list are development contracts, and then from downwards, they are on train and trial deals. So starting off with Bunty Afoa coming over from the New Zealand Warriors. He is on a development contract with the club. I think we will see him don the Tigers colours throughout 2025. And this is the next name, Javon Andrews, is what has got me and Dor very, very excited for West Tigers fans. If Javon Andrews, commits well to the West Tigers, Javon Andrews, he is the star, or was the star of the 2025 Under-19 State of Origin game. He won the man of the match playing at 5'8". He's coming down from the Gold Coast Titans. And he captained the under-20s team in the NRLQ, and he also made his Queensland Cup debut for the Tweed Seagulls in 2025. He is silky smooth. He's got some pace on him. He's a big frame for a young man, and for a bloke that plays at 5'8". I'm sure you're just as excited about Javon Andrews as the rest of us, Dor.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We did touch on that in the last podcast as well, Sam, on the Titans podcast, where we alluded to the fact that it was a big loss for the Titans, losing Javon Andrews to the Tigers. And look, he'd go close to potentially, after Latu Fainu. I think that Mr. Andrews could be very close, pardon me, to playing some first grade. I think, there's some great qualities there. A few things went wrong for Queensland in that under-19s game, and he really stood up and, led Queensland to victory in that game, Sam. So, yeah, I'm really excited about this kid. Huge loss for the Gold Coast Titans, but an absolutely massive game, again, should I say, for the West Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully we do get to see Javon Andrews, but yeah, he is fourth string, I suppose, when you include Dewey, Luai, and Latu Fainu. But he is a talent nonetheless. Moving on to the next name here, and this is young Charlie Murray. He is a prop from Queensland. He actually made his debut in 2025 and played 5 games, but he is on a development contract. Ethan Roberts. Now, I've heard the name Ethan Roberts for the past 12 months. There's a nice rap on this young man. So he's come over from the Roosters. He is an edge forward. He was named in the Indigenous All-Star squad last year. He's a New South Wales under-18 representative. Roberts played Jersey Flag. He played SG ball. He played at all levels at the Roosters. The bloke is only 20 years old. So he's gone Jersey Flag, he's gone SG Ball, he's then debuted in New South Wales Cup, all those levels before the age of 20. So now he's come over to the West Tigers, and look, maybe he might find a spot come halfway through the season off the interchange bench. But, with Fainu and Kai Pearce-Paul there, they are the preferred second rowers. But if this Ethan Roberts has an amazing reserve grade campaign, he might be able to snare a first grade debut come the end of 2026. Jared Haywood is a hooker. He is a 2024 Australian schoolboy, or was, and captains the Balmain SG ball side. Lachlan Brodelo, second row, came via the Bulldogs in 2024. He appeared in the preseason challenge in 2025. And then this name here, not so much for this year. It's actually a train and trial. There's actually conflicting things here. So Siatami Havia Jr., I hope I pronounced that correctly. On the Daily Telegraph, it's listed as a 2026 train and trial player. On a couple of other sites, it says that he's a train and trial player for 2027. But in any event, just keep an eye out for this player who plays at lock, captains the Harold Matthews. He looks to be a real weapon and potential lock of the future for the West Tigers. So Siatami Havia Jr., keep an ear out for that one and an eye out as well. Tino Tavana also has a fair bit of height as well. He's got a great leap on him and very rangy. Played for the West Tigers West Magpies New South Wales Cup and Tigers jersey flag. So he's a winger. He's a tall one too. So very athletic build. Max Tautua, he is a centre. He scored 10 tries in the final 6 weeks for the Magpies jersey flag team in 2025. Christian Tapa'au Moores, he is a prop. Now, the other day, Dor, we were talking about a young fella from, I think it was South Sydney. I was talking about the under 17s New Zealand representative games where Kiwis that play rugby league based in Australia are boxed into a test match in the under 17s. And this
Titans.
man here, thank you, Tapa Umors, played in one of those test matches as well. He also debuted in SG Ball last year and was part of the Harold Matts grand final team in 2024. Phoenix got an A. He is I've got it written down here as third row. Second row, he is a 2025 Australian schoolboy and was part of that Harold Matts grand final team. Iverson Matai. Now, this guy is a halfback. He would be behind Javon Andrews in my mind, but he has done really well. Very impressive young man. Played for New South Wales Cup in 2024, but he played for the Jersey flag team in 2025, and by all reports, he absolutely dominated. We've got Elijah Mate-Ele, who is a massive prop. We've got Max Lehman, who won the Queensland Cup grand final with the Brisbane Tigers a couple of years ago. He's played for Bradford and South Sydney since. Luke Jack, former Queensland under-19 State of Origin representative. I remember Luke Jack from a couple of years ago when he finally made his reserve grade debut in 2025, and that was for the West Magpies. And then the last name on that list, on this list, is Patrick Herbert. And we haven't seen him in the NRL since, I believe, end of 2022 or early 2023. Former Titans and Warriors player. Would be interesting. It would be interesting. I don't think he will play first grade, but Patrick Herbert is sniffing around first grade again. So that is the train and trial squad for 2026. Bunty Afoa will play first grade at a couple of or a few different points of the season. But the big names there for me, for West Tigers fans to look out for, Javon Andrews, Ethan Roberts, and Siatami Havia Jr. Not Siatami Havia Jr. for next year, I would say, but he's still on the train and trial list. But for this year especially, I'd probably suggest that Ethan Roberts and Javon Andrews would be the name that West Tigers fans should be looking out for.
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize, Sam. It was not, you were correct. It was not the Titans with the other, that New Zealand A versus New Zealand B team. You were correct. It was the Rabbitohs, and it was Philip Lavakiel. That was that, as you can see, I sort of went, as you were talking about the Tigers, I skipped back a few to the west, to the Eels, or sorry, the Rabbitohs templates, and saw that photo there with Stephen Kearney. So I was like, yep, no, you nailed it, Sam. It was Philip Lavakio for the Rabbitohs there. That was the other person that played in that New Zealand To'u versus Toa game there. So yeah, no, a really good list. And I have to agree with you, mate. I'm just really keen on Javon Andrews. I am really keen to see him get a crack. And yeah, I've been a big Javon Andrews fan ever since I watched him live, or not live on television. You obviously saw him in the flesh, but live on television in that under-19s game for Queensland. He was just outstanding, easy man of the match. And yeah, I've got big raps on Javon Andrews. I'm very excited to see how he goes, if he gets a bit of NRL action in season 2026. So a really good list there from the Tigers, Sam. And let's move into the big part, is the 2026 draw. And you know me, I love analyzing draws, Sam. So I'm going to go straight to it and sort of talk about the draw as a whole. And then you can, add your little 2 cents in when you need to, bro. So look, let's touch on it. It's a draw of runs, this draw for the West Tigers.
Yep.
That first 5 weeks is not the best in the fact that they only have one home game in the first 5 weeks of the season. They do have 3 at home after that from round 6 to 8, but really not the best, Sam, if you consider it, especially with, Campbelltown and Leichhardt, the Tigers fans and the club itself would much prefer to have at least a few games in that first 5 rounds at home. It is good from that 6 to 8 week that they've got 3 in a row, but look, no team wants to be playing at home once in the first 5 weeks. And they also have the dreaded bye round in round 1 as well, which I'm pretty sure is like that they didn't have it last year. It was the Titans, but
Yeah,
didn't they
it's the
have it the
second
year
time in 3
before?
years. It's the
Yeah,
second
second
time in
time in
3
3
years.
years. So again, Tigers fans, my heart goes out to you, NRL fanatic, but unfortunately you have to wait an extra week, technically an extra 2 weeks to see the Tigers play. So yeah, not the best, Sam. What's your thoughts on that start to the season?
I've got to be honest, man. Cowboys, they go overseas. They're going to play in Las Vegas, and yeah, they get the week off to rest, so they have a fortnight's rest. But to then travel down to Leichhardt Oval Saturday afternoon in what will be the Tigers' first game of 2025 off the back of a massive trip like the one that the Cowboys are about to embark on. Oh man, I'm I'm confident the boys can do it. They've won there a few more times at Leichhardt over the years, including last year. But man, I'm not looking forward to it. The Tigers fans are going to be ravenous. The Tigers players are going to be so up for it with a brand new lease on life and new game plan and the whatnot. Oh man, as a Cowboy supporter, mate, I'm just like, oh, I'm kind of dreading it, mate. It's going to be a very tough game, very very tough game at Leichhardt.
No, so we'll continue on. There's they also, so we talked about the 3 straight at home, Sam, from round 6 to 8. They also have 4 home games in a row between rounds 13 and 16. As you can see, the Dogs, the Panthers, pardon me, Titans, and the Dolphins they're all at home. So they get, another good stretch. We're really stretching the some more positives. 15 of their games are in the day. So I guess that might be a positive, and they dodge double ups against the Storm, Broncos, and Roosters. So
Nice.
I don't know about you, but I think there's at least 2, potentially 3 top 4 sides there in those 3 teams that I just listed there, in the Storm, Broncos, and Roosters. So to avoid playing them twice is huge for the Tigers. Speaking of playing twice, Sam, let's
Yep.
quickly touch on the teams they play twice. Like you alluded to, the Cowboys, the Warriors, the Eels, the Knights, the Raiders, the Bulldogs, the Panthers, the Dragons. Not too bad of a list. Not too bad. Warriors will be good again. I think the Raiders will be good again. Bulldogs, Panthers, like, the good ones there probably drag, but you never know, because it's obviously, this is 2025 form that Sam and I are probably thinking of. 2026, whole new year, but Dragons, Knights, Eels, Cowboys, I don't think will be teams that feature in the 8 respectfully in 2026, but you never know what could happen. So that's not a bad list. Not a bad list of teams that they play twice. Teams they play once, Sam, are the Rabbitohs, Broncos, Sharks, Storm, Seagulls, Titans, Dolphins, Roosters. A much stronger list overall. So pretty good for the Tigers to only verse those teams once. Their buys are in rounds 1, 12, and 23. So very spaced apart, Sam, which is, I think, pretty good. You know, like, yes, you can argue the benefits of, having them all sort of squished together in that origin period can be beneficial. But I think with the Tigers, they could have like maybe Coruscant, Tyrrell May, maybe as New South Wales representatives. Am I missing anyone else that maybe might?
Not unless if Samuel Afinu explodes in as part of the New South Wales squad. But you're right, May, Coruscant, maybe Jerome Luai as well returns to Origin. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's not really the worst, but I like sort of like the spaced out buys, especially from like a fantasy perspective or super coach perspective. It's also good as well as a fan's perspective, knowing that you're not having, oh, I'm watching my team play this week and then next week and then, oh shit, no, we've got another buy, we're not playing. At least then you're having, one week off, and then you've got, for Tigers' sake, they've got what, 10 games, and then they have another one. Then they've got what, like another like 12 games or whatever, and then got the other one. So like 11 games, sorry. And then they got the last one. So not too bad. But before I go into the final verdict, Sam, what about your thoughts? I know you really like to touch on the run home. Let's have a look at that, if you will.
Yeah, I do, man. I do. So the run to the finals starts in round 20. This is the weekend after State of Origin has all completed and the round as well. So round 20, they are away to the Bulldogs at Accor Stadium Saturday night. Then they play another Saturday the week after against the Canberra Raiders down at GIO. They take on the Parramatta Eels at CommBank on a Sunday arvo. Then they have that third and final bye in round 23, a second home game in a row, or the second game in 3 weeks with a bye sandwiched in between. They host the Dragons on Sunday afternoon footy. But then the final 3 weeks are all on the road. Admittedly, 2 of them are still in Sydney, but the opposition, Roosters at Allianz Stadium, Cowboys up in Townsville, and Panthers away at CommBank Stadium. So in terms of strength of opposition, for the run home to the finals for the Tigers, if they are to finally get back into the top 8 and play September, they got to take on the Bulldogs, the Raiders, the Roosters, and Panthers. So that's 4 extremely difficult teams, I would imagine. The game against the Parramatta Eels, never know. It's almost like a mini derby sort of a thing. The Dragons, they could be anything. So that run to the finals, if they need to get more wins than losses, they're going to really have to earn it, man, with with only 2 home games in the final 7 rounds of the 2025 NRL season and 3 straight away games to finish the year in 2026.
Yeah, very, very good point there, Sam. Not the greatest run home for the West Tigers. But look, apart from, no one liking an opening round bye, Sam, like we alluded to for the second time in 3 years for the poor Tigers, in my opinion, they can't be unhappy with the draw that they've been handed. There are some little things there, like I said, only the one game in the first 5 rounds and a pretty tough run home. But I think overall they can be pretty happy, and I think this is not one of the best draws that we've touched on in our 8 podcasts that we've done, but it's definitely above average. So look, games against the Tigers played against 2025 top 8 and bottom 9 teams in this 2026 draw. They play the top 8 teams from 2025 12 times. The top 6, should I say, 6 times. They play the bottom 9 12 times and the bottom 4 6 times. So not the worst. They've got 1 5-day turnaround. They've got 7 6-day turnarounds and a whopping 15 7+ day turnaround. So I'm pretty sure that's got to be up there with the most 7-day turnarounds. Or actually, no, it's not.
First.
No, it's 17. The Dragons they've got 17 7+ day things. It's tied with the Rabbitohs with 15. So look, it's pretty good. It's up there with one of from the teams that we've touched on, Sam, with the upper end of 7+ day turnarounds for the Tigers. So look, overall, I think it's a pretty solid. I think you can give this draw a solid B. I think that's a solid B for the West Tigers. Definitely could be better. Definitely could be a lot worse as well. I think it would have been a lot better draw if you rule out the start and the finish. Very tough finishes and a pretty rough start. Not so much with the opposition, but just with the away from home, congestion to start the season. So, look, pretty solid draw for the West Tigers in season 2026, Sam. Now, let's move to the team list, my friend. And look, let's not beat around the bush. Let's get straight into it, shall we? So we've got Dream Buller. This is my team. I've got Dream Buller at the back. I've got Taruva and Skelton on the wings. I've got Talon May and Stafford Toa in the centres. I've got Jerome Luai and Adam Dewey in my halves. And for those that aren't a rugby league tragic like myself, Mr. Jerome Luai came out today, Friday, the 23rd of January, and said that he will be playing, moving to the 6 position, so back to 5'8". He is sort of indicating that that is not going to be, even though he's moving back to 5'8", he's still going to, show those leadership qualities and lead the team around the park, helping Adam Dewey. But I think this is the move in the right direction, in my opinion. I think Jerome Luai is a way better 6 than he is a 7. And I thought that really indicated and showed in the back end of this 2025 campaign with how good Adam Dewey was and Jerome Luai. And if you think of, like Sam was alluding to, the utility or someone else coming in if Adam Dewey's out, I think like a Latu Finu definitely is better at 7 than he is at 6. So I think that is, how my back line or 1 to 7 would be for the Tigers in round 1. I've got Tyrrell May and Fanua Pole as my props, and we saw that a lot throughout the 2025 campaign. Appy Coruscant picks himself, obviously, at hooker. Samuel Afinu and Kai Pearce-Paul. Sam and I have alluded to both of these men. They are definitely the back row. And then we've got Alex Twal there. Hopefully Twally can score a few more tries in season 2026, and he's just a workhorse. I love Alex Twal. On the bench, we've got Latu Finu. I think that we sort of saw Latu Finu play in the utility spot in jersey 14 at the back end throughout that 2025 campaign for the Tigers. Could see him, you saw his versatility there. He was able to come on in the halves. He also came on there at hooker. Also, I think at one stage might have played like a roaming lock at some point as well. Yeah, he's very versatile there, Latu Finu, and I think he deserves a spot in the 1 to 17, as well as, keeping the Finu trio together in the 1 to 17. I think that's also a good thing for Coach Marshall. So, yes, his brother is there in jersey 15 for me, Sione Finu. He was great, I thought, Sione Finu, in his opportunities in season 2025. He'd go close to one of my big improvers for the Tigers in season 2025. I thought he went from someone that not many people knew much about, Sione Finu, but then he sort of came in and he showed why he deserves to be playing NRL on a week-to-week basis. He was great, I thought, Sione Finu. Alex Seyfarth, I touched on him before. Look, was probably playing out of position there on the second row. I'd like to see him, and I've got him at jersey 16 to play in the middle, work his ass off. Alex Seyfarth there at jersey 16. And then I've got Tony Suka there. Just wanted to have like a bit of back row versatility there in my 17. Look, Royce Hunt has looked like he has lost a lot of weight in this offseason and worked his backside off. And, respectfully to Royce Hunt, I think this has had to happen. He's been very disappointing after starting his NRL career with so much promise. I think the last few years have been very disappointing for Royce Hunt. So I think, him going out there and putting in that extra work, I think, he could be very close, to playing in this Tigers side. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does play in round 1 and probably replaces Tony Suka in the 17. But that's just how I've got about it. And I've got a nice 18 to 20 here. I've got Royce Hunt, like I mentioned, in jersey 20. I think he'll be, first in if there's a forward that, isn't available in that 17 that I just listed. Heath Mason, very versatile, can play in the halves and at fullback. I thought he was solid in his opportunities in season 25 when there was a few injuries that came the Tigers' way. Buller went down there at some point. So Heath Mason there for me in jersey 18, and in jersey 19, I'll touch on this man a little bit later, but a man that can, or a young man that had made his debut in season 2025 while still going to school, and that is Hemasini Makasini. This man will definitely play first grade. I could go on a 5-minute talk, but I'm going to save that for my breakout player, and I'm going to pass it on to you, Sam, to touch on your 1 to 20, should I say, for round one, with not that many differences to me, just a couple of tweaks.
Yeah, no. So 1 down through to 13 is unchanged in comparison to you. Our changes come on the interchange bench. I actually have Royce Hunt in my 1 to 17. I disagree with you, man. I think last year Royce Hunt was pretty explosive at times for the West Tigers. I think it was definitely his best year in a couple of years, 100%. I don't doubt when you say that he lost a bit of form a couple of years ago, but I thought he returned back to formula in 2025. And then the other player on other players, Sione Fainu, I do agree with you. He caught me by surprise. Well, I thought he did really well well, not really well, but I thought he was quite explosive for the Tigers when he came off of the bench, man, and did a lot of skittling when he came on. The other player, I wish, there you go. I was about to say, I wish you'd go back to the team list, mate, so I can see what's going on. But Seyfarth is there. Yes, he is a workhorse, but I agree with you. Sione Fainu caught my eye. I do think that he is going to, be one of the big improvers. I completely agree with you on that aspect. I chose Jack Bird to be at jersey 18. Yes, Heath Mason, I rate really, really highly, but I just think Jack Bird, it can fit either second row or centre. Maverick Geyer floating around there. Tony Suka as well. Suka had a pretty nice year, I thought, as well. But yeah, look, the big name there is that Heath Mason isn't there. I totally get that, and I really, really like Heath Mason, but we just have Jack Bird there in jersey 18. I wish Heath Mason though, mate. I hope he gets himself a contract elsewhere, sort of thing. Much respect to the Tigers fans who just fell off their chair just because Jareem Buller in the throes of conversation to have a big extension. Heath Mason is first grade quality. He's almost like a Jai Gray a little bit, maybe not as sparky, but I really like the work that Heath Mason does, and I really hope he gets a full-time gig elsewhere, to be perfectly honest with you, because I don't think he's going to get too many opportunities with Dream, Buller, and everybody else floating around there. But that is my 1 to 20 round one team.
Yeah, very similar to mine. I'm sorry, Sam. I just really, really disagree with the Royce Hunt stuff.
You don't think he didn't do well last year?
No, yeah, I agree. He was awful. He was not good last year.
No, I didn't say he was awful. So you're not agreeing with me on anything,
No, I'm not
bro.
agreeing with you. He played 16 games. He was supposed to be a big signing for the Tigers last season, and he played.
I think he did get injured, didn't he?
I don't think so. I think it was a bit down to poor form. He's such a quality player. Look at these numbers.
I thought he had a good handful of games, man.
Well, he did play. He played more than half, but look at this, 60 meters. No, let's get back up to this. These 80 meters games here.
Effective 60.
It's sort of gone downhill since 23 for Mr. Hunt, but I think he'll have a good year. I think he'll be up towards that 80 meters in season 2026, while I'm quite harsh on his previous campaign in 2025. I think the way that Mr. Royce Hunt is looking this offseason, I think he means business. So I think he'll have a great 2026 campaign. But look, let's wait no longer, and let's get into Makasini, my breakout player. And this kid he is the real deal. Look, Sam, I think we've got to go back and, Joseph Suaalii is no longer, he could come back to the game, but he's not in the NRL at the moment, Suaalii. But Makasini's debut in the last round of last year, he became the first schoolboy since Suaalii in 2021 to play in the NRL, and he actually made his New South Wales Cup debut when he was only 17 years of age off the bench. So look, Brad Fittler was still at St. Dominic's College in Penrith when he started 2 finals matches at 5'8" for Penrith as a 17-year-old. That that is just, I think that speaks, and the quality player that Brad Fittler ended up to be, and he's obviously killing it with his commitments outside or off the field in regards to his commentary, and he done some coaching and whatnot as well. So Brad Fittler's doing well in life after football, but when he played, he was a quality player, Brad Fittler. And I just think the names that you're sort of touching on, Wade Graham, for example, he debuted at Penrith when he was 17 years old. Campbell Graham also played, and Isaiah Katoa, they were also young. And you're looking at these names that I'm listing here, Sam, and these are quality, NRL players that are, Isaiah Katoa has taken the game by storm in season 2025. Campbell Graham came onto the scene, played State of Origin and represented his country. Wade Graham was probably one, up there with one of the great players to ever represent the Cronulla Sharks. Brad Fittler's a legend of NRL. Like, you see where I'm getting with? You see where I'm getting with? And
Jason Taumalolo debuted at the age of 17.
Yeah, there's an absolute, list of really good players that have made their debut. But just look at the size of the kid, Sam. He just looks the real deal, Mr. Macassini. And look, he is outstanding. Look, he's in the top 30 squad for this season. Made his debut, like I alluded to, last year. Look, they did lose, but he did score a try. You just look at that. So he only made the one tackle, but look at that for a center in one game, 166. Yes, it's only one game, but to see a young man come into first grade and realize, hey, I've got to put the ball under the wing and take these tough carries to help my team go forward, I think speaks volumes of the player that Macassini is. I think it's NWBT, I think it is, on X, has, they're big on the West Tigers coverage, and they've been speaking really good things. They're basically at training every day. They know what's going on in the ins and outs of Tiger Town. And look, they've been glowing with their endorsements of how Macassini has been training and looking in this off season. And for me, yes, look, he's not in my round one team, but I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that we'll see him eased in, and it could be that he's just that good that he just doesn't get eased out after, like, say, halfway through the season towards the back end, because I am very excited. I am very excited on Javon Andrews, Sam, but oh man, I'm very excited to see this Macassini play week to week in the NRL, and an astute talent. And I think that he will be. I don't think he's going to play enough to get Rookie of the Year, so I'm going to stick with my Cooper Bye selection for Rookie of the Year. But if he plays a lot, this man can go very close. This young man, should I say? If there's an injury to the Tigers' backline, Macassini will be in. He will be the first man in. That's why he's there in jersey 19. So without me going on a huge rant, I could speak for ages on this young talent. Even though I am a Broncos fan, I absolutely love Macassini. So I will pass to you, Sam. You've gone another back for the West Tigers, and this is Jarrell Skelton.
Yes, sir, Jarrell Skelton. Our breakout players seem to be in competition with each other just quietly, because if Jarrell Skelton isn't careful, yes, Mr. Macassini might be that player that takes over for Jarrell Skelton. Some people might say that he has already broken out, but I don't think that is the case. He's certainly shown us glimpses of his raw power, his speed, some hits that he can put on defensively have rocked me off me freaking couch. But I really like the way that Jarrell Skelton plays his footy. When he takes a carry, it's no bullshit. There's no breaks to it at all. I think Jarrell Skelton, I don't know if he's going to be on the outside of Kai Pearce-Paul or Samuel Afinu. I can't remember exactly. We'll find out in a few weeks. But I think Jarrell Skelton could be in for a massive year. He's just a massive body that gets through a fair bit of work. Yeah, I think his ball handling would be his Achilles heel at the moment, but he's a young fella that's still refining his game. So that's an area of improvement that I'd like to see. And obviously, his hit outs or hit up, sorry, coming out of trouble, maybe a little bit more work rate in that aspect. But I just think for such a young fella, we've seen him skittle blokes, we've seen him absolutely crack ribs on blokes as well. He's a really, really exciting talent, and I think if he stays injury free, touch wood, and suspension free, I think he could explode. And he's got to play that good because Matt Makasini is such an impressive young talent as well, who's chomping at the bit. But I think Jarrell Skelton is going to explode in 2026.
Yeah, 15 games last season, Sam, in 2025. Like you said, injury unfortunately plagued him in that campaign. 10 tries for Skelton. Look, for me, the big thing that I really love about Jarrell Skelton is the highlighted area is his run meters. He tucks the ball under the wing and just runs straight and runs hard. Not afraid of the players that are in front of him. He just works his backside off, and you can see that throughout his whole, career, he's probably averaging, like 160 run meters throughout his whole career. If you include, the handful of games he played at the Bulldogs, over the 2 years beforehand in 2023 and 2024. So, yeah, great player. But like you said, yeah, definitely the aerial and catching and whatnot, definitely his Achilles heel needs to work on that. But quality player. I love Jarrell Skelton. Very like if you're looking at another player throughout the competition, he reminds me a lot of Greg Marzu, Jarrell Skelton. I think he's a good player. And then if you want to go to the top of the echelon of those type of players, I think Brian To'o is they're not massive, but they work their backside off and they do the hard yards. I think those three boys are, probably in going with To'o at the top, Marzu there, and then also Skelton. All those guys, same sort of body height, weight, etc., and they just do the same thing. They just truck it up. Absolute defender's nightmare. Those players there, Sam. So quality player. I love him, but unfortunately, he's not Makasini, mate. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. I think Stafford Toll would go for me rather than Jarrell Skelton, but that's just me. Anyway, let's move on to the piece of resistance and the absolute beauty of these jerseys, these new kits, Sam. Oh, what such beauty. But such beauty comes with such disappointment. And unfortunately, these such beautiful jerseys, unfortunately, were the talking point of some unhappy conversations that the jersey was too orange. Just to allude to some of the reasons behind it with what's happened with the Tigers off the field at the back end of 2025 into 2026. And I don't know how that these jerseys can be at all discriminated because they are absolutely beautiful. I would put them up there with easily the top three jerseys for the season 2026. They'd go close to first for me, Sam. They are beautiful. I can't fault either of the jerseys. The Pepper Money sponsor integration, should I say, is just beautiful. We're seeing the claws, that that lovely celebration that they do. This, the claw marks coming down. We've got the nice integration of the Canterbury logos there on the sleeves or on the shoulders of the away jersey. Oh man, they're beautiful. I could go on another rant about how beautiful these jerseys are, Sam. And look, if you haven't got one, Tigers fans, I don't know what you're doing. Just throw your money at it. That is just a jersey of a lifetime. That's one of the best West Tigers 1-2 jersey combinations that I've seen in some years, Sam. It is unbelievable. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it.
I reckon the West Tigers jersey over the past 3 or so years have just about been the most boring, most bland jerseys in the competition. So this is a massive upgrade. Imagine releasing this massive upgrade of a jersey, and then the next day the board decides that they want to bitch about it and spotlight it and just throw things into disarray, and just, one positive turns into a goddamn negative, man. Just shut up. So anyway, no, I really like the jerseys, man, and there's enough black and white there in that away kit for sure, mate. So no, I really like them as well, man. They're definitely top 3 from what we've seen so far.
I could just sit here and stare at those jerseys for a bit longer. They're absolutely wonderful. Like, they are so good, man. And like you said, Sam, the Tigers, the Tigers as a club, their jerseys recently like you alluded to, have been pretty meh. Like, they've been pretty boring. And, I think they've realized that they've heard that criticism. And they took it on board and they've delivered in spades. Like, they're just beautiful, beautiful jerseys. Well done, Tigers. Absolutely astounding. Love those jerseys. Oh, and unfortunately, we've got to go from such a high down to a bit of a, plateau to middle ground, I guess. And we moved to Sam and I's West Tigers 2026 ladder prediction. And we both have the Tigers just missing the top 8. For me, I think they're definitely going to be better. I think that their squad is a bit more rounded this season than it was last year with that Pierce Paul acquisition. They've been screaming for a second row. I like that. The draw, while it's good, I do worry about the start and finish to the seasons with so many away games to start the season, and just the tough run that they have at the back end. So for me, I've got them just missing the 8. I'm sorry, Tigers fans. I do think it will be an improvement, as Sam is blinded by the lights, literally. So I think it will be an improvement for 2000 and to the 2025 campaign, but I don't think it's unfortunately going to get you into the 8. Will I be surprised if the Tigers get into the 8? No, I will not. I think that they're definitely on the precipice of pushing into the 8, but unfortunately for me and Sam, they are just missing out. Sam, what do you want to say in regards to the your prediction there with having the Tigers in 9 to 13?
I think a West Tigers fan just cut my freaking power cord just quietly. Had to turn it back on. Last year was their best defensive effort since the year 2020. However, in saying that, even though they improved, I feel like we both have said that they have improved. They still leaked over 600 points. Their defense does need to improve, and that one game 64-0 absolutely blew out that stat for sure. So defensively, they need to improve. Jareem Buller, I think, has to have a massive year if the Tigers are to enter the top 8 in 2026. Adam Dewey, he was a part of more wins than losses when he played at halfback. So having Latu Fainu sitting on the interchange bench this year is dangerous. It might be a little bit off-putting for Latu Fainu to have another year as a utility sort of thing. And we saw at times that when he did come on, Adam Dewey, he then would either shift back to lock, or if Coruscant was off at the same time, Dewey, he would play a little bit of hooker during those times. So Adam Dewey, he is a big watch for me in 2026. He could be in for a Player of the Year for the West Tigers award in 2026. I think he could be absolutely massive. Well, speaking of the second rowers again, you know, Kai Paul and Samuel Afinu, they're both 80-minute players, so that will do well for their interchange bench and their rotations and whatnot. Samuel Afinu could also be selected into the New South Wales squad overall. He was, I believe, the under-19s captain back in 2023 or thereabouts. He was a massive figure in that game when he did represent New South Wales. I think their depth for halves is fine, especially Jock Madden, who's now got some more maturity and more games under his belt. I think their forward pack depth is okay. I think is okay. I think their depth in the back line, whilst you've got Cassini there, I do think that if injuries ravage them again, well, not again, but if injuries ravage them in the back line, I think it just their youth. It's not a matter of how many players they got. I think it's just that the backline players that they can bring in don't have that NRL experience in comparison to the rest of the squad. So their backline depth is not a concern, but just the experience level of that depth in the backline if injuries ravage them throughout 2026. Look, what's really keeping them out of the top 8 for me as well is that run home. That's a really difficult run home if the Tigers need to accrue those points. But look, some people have got them, and they're complete neutrals. Some people have got them on the cusp of a top 4 berth just quietly. So who friggin' knows? But what I do know is that they need to improve defensively and not leak as many points. Despite them having their best defensive year since 2020, they still leaked over 600 points, which is a bottom 4 defense statistically over the years. So defense needs to improve and just stay more. It just feels like that they just left for 10, 15 minutes throughout some games last year. They just went MIA. So just more focus for the full 80 minutes, better defensive efforts, and hopefully the attack can be a bit more smoother as well. There were at times where Latu Fainu sort of struggled there, but I think with Adam Dewey and Luai and Coruscant and Buller, it's a good spine that they've got. So West Tigers, I think they will improve. I don't think they'll be 13th, but I do think that they will improve a couple of spots, but just miss out on the top 8.
Yeah, I just think that their backline, just to make, bring up a couple of the points you just mentioned there, Sam. I think their backline's all right. Like they've got the Laulili brothers there as well, Kit. And I think it's Kit and Luke, I think it is. Let me just make sure I'm bloody not. Yeah, Kit and Luke, Laulili. They're both there. They've got, Jack Bird that can go into the back. My concern is hooker. They've got no backup hooker. Like, yeah, you can play Latu Fainu there at hooker or Jock Madden or something like that. But did you say that Mr. Haywood can play hooker?
Yes, he can.
What an absolute marvelous memory there, Dor. So Mr. Haywood might be playing a bit, but I think that's a bit of a drop off. That's a bit of a drop off there. No disrespect to Mr. Haywood, but obviously that is a bit of point of concern, especially
I definitely agree that was an oversight
and whatnot. I think their forward and backs aren't stacked depth-wise as some other clubs, but it's certainly better than the median, I think, or around the median anyway with their depth. Like I said, Macassini he'll be in at some point anyway. And there's plenty of, the Laulili brothers, like Luke's already signed with Perth Bears for for next season. So he'll be wanting to, finish high and get at least some NRL experience before making the venture west in season 2027. And look, I think that's it. I think they're very close, but just unfortunately not making it in to the 8.
What is it?
So
What would they need in the future to crack the top 8? Is it just that they need just another year under
I
their belts to form their
I'd like
combos?
I'd like to see them get more forwards. I'd like to
Yeah.
see them get a I'd like to see them get a few more forwards. Um, I'm happy with the spine. They've got that Luai, Dewey, Coruscant, Buller. Like that's a pretty good spine, Sam. I like their wingers. I like their centers. I like the depth. I got Makasini there. He's not playing. Um, it's just I feel like Terrell Mays. Look, we didn't touch on him at all, but we'll touch on him now for at least a few
Yes.
seconds. And Terrell May was the spine of that forward pack. Like he was the engine. There was no Tigers forward pack without Terrell May. He was by far the standout. How he didn't play New South Wales, look, don't get angry at me, but
Mm.
it was an absolutely sick joke. And that's coming from a Queenslander, how someone that Tyrrell May could not play Origin. Yes, there
No, it was
was
a
the
joke.
twit. Yes, there was the Twitch stuff, but look, that's just shit and giggles, and that's what Tyrrell May is. He has fun. He has fun. He streams video games and whatnot, and talks to his community, his fan base, and whatnot, and just enjoys life off the pitch. And like a joke just got taken out of hand. And to me, you've got to pick your best players. And Tyrrell May on numbers was probably the second best middle forward behind Payne Haas in season 2025. He was absolutely outstanding, probably averaged more minutes per game than Payne Haas. He played 80 minutes way like a heap of times. He is just an engine. He just gets through. He does marathons. The man's just incredible.
Yep.
To the fact that the Roosters let him go and he went to the Tigers is just I don't know what happened there either. There just seems to be that thing, unfortunately, around with the May family that just I don't know what exactly. Yes, we know what with the Taylor situation, that's a bit different. But with Tyrrell, it was just like I, said something about the Roosters and then it got taken out of hand, and then next minute he was off. And I can tell you bottom dollar now, Benji Marshall will not be letting go of Tyrrell May anytime soon. He is well loved by Coach Marshall, and yeah, they just need some support for him. I think if they can get Royce Hunt, going back to those 2023 or 22 numbers at the Sharks, that would be unreal. Getting him close to 100 meters off the bench. I just think they lack a few big boppers. Sione Fainu's good, Fanua Pole's good, but they're just, you know what I mean? Like Seyfarth, yeah, he's thing, but he's just a solid player. You need to have like one of those workhorses in the team, so it's not like completely against Seyfarth. But I don't want to go on a huge tangent here, but
No, right.
I feel like that's the only weakness for me. I just feel like that they could some better forwards maybe, but it could also be that their forwards are young. They just need a bit more time.
I was
And
just
I
about
think
to
that
say, man, this is a
I'm
year
just
where
thinking
the
that
likes of
might be it.
Fanua Pole
Yep.
can't take a step backwards. It's a very important year for Pole. Fainu has to develop more on. So I agree that they just need to take a step forward in their development. And I look at their centers as well. So Taylor May, he's going to be a marked man in 2026. He came in late and sort of took the NRL world by surprise again and dominated. He looked really, really good. And I'm not saying that he's going
got
to take a
nothing to
step
prove for
backwards,
me.
but no, exactly. But he's just got to maintain the rage,
Exactly.
and he's going to be a bit more marked and expected this year. And then you look at the other centre stuff with Toa. He's signed until 2028, so he's not really going to go anywhere. But he has
He has
3
some bad
games
games.
a year where he's the best centre in the fucking world,
Oh,
just
yeah.
quietly.
Yep.
But then he has those games where it's not good enough. like generally is not good enough. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I don't rate Stafford Toa, but he's
No,
got to
Stafford
find
Toll is a
that
good player.
consistency.
Yeah, that's the thing though, Sam. Like Stafford Toll is a quality player, deserves to be in the NRL and everything, but it's just, I think you've seen it with Benji Marshall and his coaching regime and how ruthless he can be, and he can just say, "Yep, like this is it." Yes, you're signed till 27, but I want to give this young kid a crack, and I'm happy with what the other players are doing, Taruva, May, Skelton, and I want Makasini to play. You've let me down, or you've played some bad games. You're out. Makasini's in. But Stafford Toa, look, yes, I'm huge on Makasini, but Stafford Toa last year was outstanding. Like he had so many good games last year. A lot more of those games, like, wow, Stafford Toa is the best bloody center in the game, or up there. He can have those type of games. I'm pretty sure, even though they lost both times to the Cowboys, I'm pretty sure Stafford Toll played well against the Cowboys in one of those games,
Yeah, no,
if
that
not
game
both.
up in Townsville, man, Toa absolutely torched us, bro.
Yeah. So, look, a lot of yeah, I think it's a good season. They're going to go close to the Tigers, but
And they
for
could
Sam and I,
surprise.
exactly. I said that they definitely couldn't make the top 8. I wasn't ruling that out at all, but I just think that they're just going to miss out for me. But I think, like I was saying, yes, they might need a couple of forwards. But now that I think of it, I think it's more that they're building these forwards that are
Yep.
coming in, the Poles, the Sione Finu's, the Fanua Pole, Sione Finu, the Samuela Finu, they're all building. And we touched on in the train and trial and development squad a couple of really good young players, like Ethan Roberts or whatever can come in, and so there's some good things coming for the West Tigers. Unfortunately for Sam and I, just missing out. Look, thank you so much for listening to another episode. The support throughout these 2026 team previews has been outstanding. Sam and I can't thank you all enough. All we can ask you to do is just what we ask you after every episode. Just like and subscribe the episode and all the other ones that we've done thus far. Subscribe to both our YouTube channels. That helps us out a hell of a lot. And then just follow us on all social media as well. That would be greatly appreciated. But thank you so much, Sam, for another
Thank you,
excellent
Dor.
podcast and a great in-depth preview for the Tigers 2026 campaign. That will do us here.
Thanks,
So
guys.
we'll see you in the next one. Remember, your team could be next. It is. I might have actually leaked it slightly in the back end of this episode. Who
You
is the
did.
next one? So you might enjoy the early preview. But yes, it is. It is a surprise every episode. So we look forward to seeing you in the next one. So thank you so much. We'll see you then. Catch up.